Go ahead and get started. Thank you all for being here this morning for one of our access breakfasts. First, on behalf of the Beacon Council, I want to introduce myself as Joe Pallett, the chair of the Beacon Council this year, and thank everyone for their support. Also, in connection with our breakfast this morning, just thank Hotel Sofitel, who brought us the beautiful pastries. They're one of our sponsors for our Access Breakfast series, and I want to talk about why we do these series. We started this about a year and a half ago, and we've had some wonderful programs, and today's program is no exception. It's really an opportunity to allow the community to come in and understand from a very close view the major projects that are going on in our community and how we can all benefit from them and participate. For those of you who might not be familiar with our organization, the Beacon Council is Miami-Dade County's official economic development organization. We work closely with the other organizations throughout the community, including the Commission and the Mayor and the various EDOs throughout the county. Our mission is to market Miami-Dade County as the ideal location to build your business. We have two main goals, and that is to help existing companies expand and to create new opportunities for better paying jobs in our community. I want to talk about today's topic and then introduce our guest speakers. We're here this morning to talk about YGRENE's Clean Energy Green Corridor. It's a program which enables property owners to upgrade to clean energy improvements and hurricane protection and to finance those improvements over time through their property tax bills. Currently, there are 7 Miami-Dade County cities participating in this public-private partnership. Those cities are Miami, City of Miami, Cutler Bay, Miami Shores, Palmetto Bay, Pinecrest, Coral Gables, and South Miami. Today, we'll learn how this program works and have an opportunity to discuss any questions we may have with our speakers. I want to thank the mayor of the town of Cutler Bay, Ed McDougall, who's here with us this morning. Cutler Bay was the first city in Miami-Dade County to enter this program. We also have with us the Vice President of Operations of YGRENE, Joe Spector, who will be talking about the program. Let me now turn to our speakers and first introduce Mayor McDougall. Prior to the town of Cutler Bay's incorporation, Ed McDougall served as Vice Chair of the Cutler Bay Municipal Advisory Committee and chaired the Cutler Bay Charter Committee. Following the untimely death of Mayor John Cosgrove, Mayor McDougall was appointed in 2006 as Vice Mayor and became mayor and was elected mayor in November of 2010. Since then, under his leadership, the town became a member of the Miami-Dade League of Cities. He currently represents the town holding committee leadership positions at business organizations and local chapters. Mayor McDougall is also chairman and owner of Choice One Companies, a holding company for several corporations that operate within the real estate, finance, property and casualty, and title insurance markets. He's headed the company, which has locations in the town of Cutler Bay and the village of Palmetto Bay since 1981. He retired from the Miami-Dade County Police Department, Cutler Ridge District, as sergeant, having been an officer for 12 years. He's also a Vietnam combat veteran, U.S. Army Airborne. Please join me in welcoming Mayor McDougall.
Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate it. It's a terrific honor to be here today. It's an honor to work with the Beacon Council to make sure that we're all moving forward in Miami-Dade County and growing our economy and growing the jobs and making sure we join hands and build a better future for, of course, we all know our kids and our grandkids. That's the reason we're here. That's the sole reason that we're here. I want to mention a couple of things about Cutler Bay and where we started with this program and how it started, and it is not always about elected officials. I usually do this quickly to give the recognition to the people of Cutler Bay that we serve, and this idea came from a resident of Cutler Bay who is very much in tune with environmental issues, brought it to the table, and it was a message sent to our town. Our previous mayor, Paul Roman, and our previous manager, Steve Alexander, and our council took it on as a task and moved forward. Since 2010, I have been working with the current manager, and YGRENE, of course, has been such an integral part of what we've done to move this program forward. One of the things that I also like to mention is that this is one of the unusual parts of the YGRENE program. We brought a total of 7 cities on board, 7. I had the opportunity to go before 7 councils on many occasions. Joe was there at every one of them. And we were able to obtain a unanimous vote by all cities and all council members to join. I can't remember the last time my council had unanimous decision on any one thing, and we were able to bring 7 cities on board. So I think that there must be a certain wisdom in the cities' councils because they decided to come together. And as the cities aforementioned, it's been a pleasure to work with them. We have each of the mayors that serve on the board to protect each of our citizens, and I won't go into a lot of the structure because Joe Spector is going to go into that with you. Several years ago, maybe 2 years ago, I was at a meeting, an environmental meeting with League of Cities, and I was sitting next to Cindy Lerner, the mayor of Pinecrest. We're both environmentalists, and we were having a conversation about, well, no surprise with Mayor Lerner at Florida Power and Light, and the conversation came up where I told her, I said, well, there will be a day, one day, hopefully, where we really won't need power companies, where we'll just need a grid. That's what we'll need, just a grid. And we'll use all the buildings in the country as the power companies. And we'll just put them out of business. Not in a bad way, I mean in a good way, where they will be responsible for that all-important grid system. And how it's worked is a positive way because we're getting there. I'm proud to say I'm the first recipient of a photovoltaic system on my 3,800 square foot house home, if you will, in Cutler Bay. The first 2 months I had a 0 power bill. Actually fed energy back into the grid that other homes could use until it was time for me to have them back. So I can attest that it works. It works really, really well. Quickly, global warming. Is it real? I don't know. Is it man-made? Don't know that either. There are scientists on one side that say it's man-made and it's carbon produced. There are scientists on the other side that say it's not. It's a natural happening, and this is what the Earth does over time. I really don't know. And at the end of the day, I'm hopeful that what we do will be for the benefit of our children and grandchildren. But I know this. This country spent $1 trillion over the last 3 years for foreign energy. $1 trillion we spent on foreign energy. This is where we attack and help our economy. This is where we attack the deficit and the money that we spend in this country. We could take the leadership role back. We are the Sunshine State, and we can produce our own energy. And because of YGRENE and because of their efforts, and it was really a Herculean effort to put this mechanism together. I think, and from what I've seen, and from my perspective, this could very well be the single most important project for jobs and energy conservation at 0 cost to the taxpayer because we didn't use 10 cents of taxpayers' money to do this. No knocking on Uncle Sam's door for us. We didn't do this. We did this in Tallahassee. We were able to get some legislation passed which allowed us to have these individual cities because they are households. Excuse me. It's like getting a drink of water. Or Marco. I'm glad somebody caught that. Because we were able to work with government at no cost to put the program together. What I want to do is I want to introduce Joe. Joe Spector has every day been involved in this, and I will tell you he has had a laborious task. We elected officials, we like to sound good and tell you everything that we've done and how successful we are, but Joe has worked very, very hard to put this program together on a basis of every meeting that I've been to. Joe has been there, putting together the company, putting together the people who actually do the installation, as on my house. I have to tell you, I had a crew of 5 or 6 people over a period of several days putting in a 10 kW system. Anybody know what a 10 kW kilowatts? Raise your hand, you know what that is? That's a pretty beefy system for a house. And you have to put in the computer system, you have to plug it up to the internet, you have to put in the photovoltaic cells, all of these things involved. So he has to make sure that the people that are doing this, because they're putting these systems in for my residents, are not only qualified, but trained in the areas that YGRENE thinks is important to make their program successful. Before I turn it over to Joe, real quick, I want to just mention to you, because I promised that I would mention the Environmental Leadership Workshop by the Tropical Audubon Society, and that is October 5th and 6th at the Dairy Estate, right? And want to make sure I mention that because it's important. I'm one of those rare Republicans that people think is not an environmentalist. Well, they're so wrong. I think it's extremely important. I'd like to introduce Joe to come up, and he's going to answer some questions for you. Joe, you going to come up? Joe Spector, he is running YGRENE, and very proud to have him on that wall. Joe?
Good morning. Want to thank the Beacon Council for inviting us here to talk to everyone today. Also want to thank Mayor McDougall because he can give me a lot of the credit for this, but really if it weren't for his leadership and Cutler Bay's role as really the spearhead behind this, we would not have been able to get these cities to come together. I remember my first day on the job with YGRENE about a little over 2 years ago now. I got thrown straight into the fire. I accepted the position, and they said, okay, great, can you be at the Pinecrest Commission meeting tonight? And I had really no idea how to explain this program to politicians at that point. So I got up there, didn't know what to say, looked behind me, and Mayor McDougall and the town manager at the time, Steve Alexander, were standing behind me. I had no idea who they were. And they kind of pushed me out of the way, and they took over. And really, if it weren't for their leadership, this wouldn't have happened. So I want to thank the mayor for that. So what I want to do today really is just discuss how the program works, because for people who don't understand it, it does seem to be a little complex, but I'm going to boil it down so you can see that it's really a pretty simple program at the heart of it, and explain sort of the mechanisms of how this works and why this can be so successful. So in a nutshell, what this is the municipalities can now finance energy efficiency and hurricane protection upgrades for private property owners. It's then repaid by the property owner through a non-ad valorem assessment on the property tax bill. When you think about this, there's nothing new about this at all. The cities have always had the power to assess for what they feel is in the common good. Street lights, sidewalks, waste collection, sewage, these all show up as assessments on our property tax bill. What is revolutionary, though, about this program was that the state, in their statute, in the law that they passed, said energy efficiency and hurricane protection is now a compelling state interest. So what they're saying is that each individual who improves their property or their home is giving that benefit to the entire community. And that then allows the cities to do this. So that's what's very exciting about this program, is it's saying each individual can benefit the community by doing these two things. Now, PACE, I should have started with the basics. PACE actually stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy. But because we have the unique situation here in Florida with our hurricanes and citizens insurance, they decided to extend this also to hurricane protection. So it's unique in the country. There's, I believe, 35 state programs, or state laws at least, passed around PACE, and Florida is the only one that's included hurricane protection. So it's a unique feature of the program. Now, there are a couple of unique things about this type of assessment. When I originally started to go before the city commissions, I would always get property owners in there that would hear the word assessment and say, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to pay for my neighbors to fix up their property. But the unique thing about this type of assessment is, first, it's voluntary. No one has to do it if they don't want to. It's not like a street light district or sidewalks where you have to pay it. And second, it's individual. It has absolutely no effect on the property taxes of anyone in the surrounding area. So if you decide to do this on your building or your home, the assessment is individually on that single property tax bill. No one else pays for it. Everyone benefits from it, but no one pays for it except that property owner that wanted to do it. It's 100% financing. This is the single largest obstacle to implement these projects. Everyone thinks about it. Oh, I'd love to put solar on my roof, or I'd love to get hurricane-proof windows. The contractor comes, gives you the bid, it's $35,000, $40,000. Who has that money? Not a lot of people have that money. Banks aren't giving long-term loans for this type of thing. We do, though. So now you can do this without a single out-of-pocket expense. Nothing up front, no down payment, no delivery on materials. The program pays the entire thing. And it's not credit-based. A lot of people are coming in saying, I've got bad credit, so I'm assuming you're not going to give me money. And that's not the case at all. We do not check credit scores. It has nothing to do with credit. It has to do with equity in the property. So here in Florida, like I mentioned, it's energy efficiency, renewable energy, and hurricane protection. Some of the new districts that are getting started are choosing to include water conservation in this program, which I'm going to present before the board because I'd like to get it included in the green corridor. It just wasn't in the initial stages. But those are the three segments that are included in the program. So just to give you a few ideas, really you can think about it this way. Is anything that improves the consumption of energy on the property or protects the property against hurricanes and is affixed to the property is included in the program. So that's the unique feature of it, is it has to be affixed. It doesn't include more efficient appliances, refrigerators, dishwashers, things like that. And that's because it's an assessment on the property itself. It's not a loan to the property owner. It's an assessment on the property, so it has to be something that actually sticks on that property, even if the property owner moves. So the mayor touched on this already, but it gets a bit confusing when you talk about PACE, YGRENE, Clean Energy Green Corridor. Clean Energy Green Corridor really is just a district. It's just an area where this program is actually available at this point. It consists of Coral Gables, Miami, Miami Shore, and I should note that that's the city of Miami, not Miami-Dade County. City of Miami, Miami Shore, South Miami, Palmetto Bay, Pinecrest, Cutler Bay. These 7 municipalities came together to form a district. Now, there's many reasons for that. I can go into that later if you have questions about it, but there's some benefits to forming a district rather than doing it as an individual municipality. The district then selected my company, YGRENE, as the administrator. As the administrator, we handle all the education of the contractors and the property owners alike, all the marketing, all the training, all the community outreach, and most importantly, and this was unique to really what Cutler Bay and Mayor McDougal wanted when they put out the RFP for the administrator, is they said, you have to show up with money. The cities do not have money to pay for this, and they don't want to raise money from our property owners. So YGRENE came in, and we finance everything. All of this is done, absolutely no cost to the cities. Even their administrative costs in forming the district and coming to the meetings, we actually reimburse the district. We give them money on each project in order to make sure that they have absolutely no monetary expense related to this. So as I mentioned, this is really the only solution to operating a district at zero cost and zero risk to the municipalities. There are new districts now coming online. It started in what we call the Green Corridor. A second district has been formed. They named that the Coastal Corridor. This is really the cities of Northeast Miami-Dade, Bay Harbor Island, Surfside, Biscayne Park, hopefully soon Miami Beach. I believe Fort Lauderdale wants to join that district. We're also forming one out in the northwest section. Medley is in that right now. Miami Lakes was in. There's been interest from Doral. Really, we want to roll this out to the entire county. It is going statewide, though. Lee County is forming a program. They've appointed YGRENE as their administrator. Leon County, Tallahassee, has appointed us as the administrator. So it is slowly rolling out through the entire state. So types of properties: industrial, commercial, multifamily residential. Single-family residential is in yellow there because some cities are opting not to offer this to residential, at least in the beginning. Coral Gables and the city of Miami unfortunately decided not to roll it out to residential in the beginning. And that's simply really because it's new. It is on the property tax bill. It's treated as taxes. So if people don't pay, it gets the same treatment as if you don't pay your taxes. So they're a little bit nervous about how that might affect some property owners. The truth of the matter, though, is since we've launched the Green Corridor, 95% of the people coming in are residential property owners. People are excited about this program. Our district manager is here, Rafael Perez. You want to raise your hand? He can tell you firsthand afterwards, there are people who call us basically crying because they're so excited because they can't fix their roofs. They never had the money before. The bank will not loan them money. And these things are leaking, they're breaking down, and now they have it. So it's very exciting, and we're very excited to have residential in the program. And I believe the other cities will continue, will add that in as we go along. Now, there is some underwriting criteria that goes into this. This isn't just walk in the door, here's $50,000. We do check underwriting, and there's really 4 things that you have to meet. No tax delinquency for the past 3 years, no more than 1 missed mortgage payment for the past 3 years, no bankruptcy for 3 years, and at least 15% equity in the property. So we realize, especially in the case of residential, that because of recent occurrences in the market, a lot of people are underwater, and that disqualifies them from this program. I think that will change as prices start to come back again. But this is the underwriting criteria, so it's not simply open to every single person that just wants it. So the benefits, the property owners of doing these types of retrofits to their property, you increase, and these are proven, these are done from studies, this isn't just me touting our program. Increase occupancy levels and rents, increase your property values, reduce operating maintenance repair expenses, reduce your utility bills and your variable cost risk, reduce hurricane damage risk and insurance premiums, and you can reabsorb funds set aside for capital expenditures and replacement reserves. The reason you can do all this is because you don't need any capital if you participate in this program. We provide all the capital, everything you've set aside for the maintenance and repairs and capital replacements, you can now reabsorb back into your company. Now, the benefits of using PACE as compared to traditional financing or cash, for example, one is it's an extremely easy approval process. We don't require tax returns. We don't require your income statements, anything like that. We check if you have equity in the property. You send in an application. We check those 3 things, and within 48 hours, you're approved. You know exactly how much money you have available to you. It's off-balance sheet financing. There's no long-term liability with this. So you get the increase in value of your property by doing these projects with no liability against it. It's accounted for as a property tax. It's an expense. So you can write off the full payment, not just interest, like with a traditional loan, but the principal and the interest because it's accounted for as a property tax. Payments stay with the property owner and transfer ownership. It's, as I mentioned before, it's an assessment on the property. So if you do these and sell your building, that next owner has the assessment. The reason for that is this is really the pay-as-you-go model. That second owner, that next owner, is the one benefiting from everything that was done to the property. Because the way it was in the past, is you had to pay up front for everything. You had to come up with $100,000 to get the savings over the next 10 years. Now, as you get the savings, you make the payment for it. It's the pay-as-you-go model. It solves the split incentive issue, which is a major issue for a lot of commercial property owners. Why invest in the property if the only ones who are going to benefit are the ones renting? Now, though, because that maintenance cost, the property taxes are in the maintenance cost, the property owner gets the increase in value of the property, and the net result to the renters is basically nullified. The property tax goes up, the energy bills go down, so they don't notice. It makes no difference to them, and the property owner actually gets increased value in the property. And it's long payback periods. Up to 20 years are available. There are various options. 5, 10, and 20 years are available. But banks simply are not giving 20-year loans for these type of upgrades to properties. So just to finish up here, the current status is in partnership with Johnson Controls and Colliers International. At the end of July, we announced the largest PACE project in U.S. history. This was done out in Sacramento. It was a $3.2 million project, which gave the property owner a 27% decrease in utility costs, which is $140,000 annually, and at the same time increased the value of the property by $1.8 million. So they didn't come up with a single dollar to pay for this, the property owner, and are actually going to realize a profit from doing this. And just 2 weeks ago, we kicked off the Green Corridor. We had our big launch event, which was hosted by YGRENE and our partner, the Carbon War Room. Carbon War Room is Richard Branson's organization. They work globally to reduce the carbon footprint throughout the world. The mayors all spoke at that. We did the ribbon cutting, and actually Richard Branson did a video congratulating the mayors and the cities of the Green Corridor. Now, we train the contractors in the program. For the contractors that you want to use, they have to be certified by us. We've now trained over 300 contractors. This is our facility in Coconut Grove. They have run, once we train them, they get access to our system, and our system actually pre-qualifies every property in the city. So they go through there and run projects because they no longer have to waste time going to properties, presenting a project, and that property owner can't get the money to pay for it. They now know going into every project that they do, every single residential property, every single commercial property, exactly how much money these people have available to do properties. So they love it. They can target their marketing efforts, and they've run over $2 billion worth of eligible projects already in our system. Now, obviously, a lot of that's just marketing, but what we have actually in our pipeline, that's what we call, from the time it becomes a lead all the way to the time it goes through financing, we have over $65 million worth of projects in there already, and we've only been open for business for 6 weeks. So this is an extremely powerful, potentially powerful program. The independent studies that have been done says that for every $100 million that we finance, 1,500 jobs are created, and the initial bond structuring that we did in the Green Corridor was for $500 million. So just there in those 7 communities, if we can reach $500 million, we've created 7,500 new jobs locally. And that's in an industry that was probably hit the hardest by the recession. That's the contractor industry. Imagine for a second, though, if this rolls out through the state, through the country, you're talking about the creation of hundreds of thousands of jobs, really with all independent financing, rather than using the cities to coffers to create these jobs. So that, in a nutshell, is the program. So I don't know if we want to open it up to.
It's an incredibly interesting and wonderful project. I mean, it really hits a lot of the things that so many of our organizations are focused on. And you know, honestly, I've heard a lot about it, but didn't really have the details. So thank you very much for being here. So for questions, we'll start with Joe.
You mentioned some municipalities that are looking into it. How about the unincorporated Miami-Dade county? Are they looking into it?
Miami-Dade is looking into it. They've actually, back in November of last year, they gave a directive to staff to do a report on really the PACE programs around the state, the administrators, what their options are. I know that they've done that report, but they haven't released it yet, and I'm not exactly sure why. We get constant calls from people in Miami-Dade who want to participate in the program. We have to tell them they can't. So we hope that they will push it through as quickly as possible, and so that it is on their radar screen, but they haven't gone through with actually implementing the program.
I guess 2 questions. One is, you mentioned that all the costs are covered by the funding. That means that all the pre-development expenses, pre-construction, which is the construction documents, the permit fees, all of that. How does that work? The contractor does the work and you reimburse them?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, our contract, our agreement is really with the property owner, but what we encourage the contractor to structure his agreement with the property owner is that they need to assign the rights to the contractor to receive the money directly. So in the first couple projects we finance, we actually do a direct deposit to the contractor when the project's been inspected. And all the pre-construction expenses can be wrapped into that also.
Good morning, Louis Archibald from Pathman Lewis. The program sounds spectacular. I was wondering if you could just give me an idea of what the effective interest rate might be on the financing.
Sure. Well, there are 3 different options available. At 5 years, what are we, 4.93? At 5 years, it's 4.93, 10 years, 5.93, and 20 years, 6.93. It's actually tied to the 30-day LIBOR, so it adjusts a little bit, but when you sign that finance agreement, that contract with the district, it locks in for the life of the assessment, so it doesn't vary once you lock it in. We provide you ahead of time the amortization schedule so you see exactly what your annual payments are. Everyone goes into this with their eyes open. Now, one of the great things about our program, besides the length of time that you can do this, which gets your annual payments down very low, is we serve really as a performance bond. Because of the way the state statute is worded, we can't pay the contractor until that project or that retrofit has actually been affixed to the property. So it serves in a way as a performance bond. We'll pay once the inspection's done. So the property owner feels very safe with that. They know that the contractors, well, they can't get that 25% deposit and just take off. It really sort of keeps fly-by-night contractors out of the program. We're working with a lot of the smaller guys on this to get them bridge financing, small business loans, things like that, because we know that that's sort of a burden on the contractor. The mayor has actually talked about creating a fund at the district for the smaller contractors. So we're working on that, but that's the way it works currently.
In terms of the payment, how would that work? I mean, the county sends out a property tax bill. Do you send out a separate property tax bill, or the county's bill includes your finance?
Yeah, at the top of the tax bill is the ad valorem assessments, which is based on the value of the property. And right below that on a property tax are the non-ad valorem assessments. So it will show up as a line item right on your property tax bill as a non-ad valorem assessment.
You'd mentioned that, you'd mentioned 95% of the participants are single-family residents. Do you have any kind of report that shows the usage, how many single-family, how many multifamily, how many office buildings? Do you have anything like that that shows?
Oh, sure, yeah, I don't have that with me, but our system, in our system, obviously we pull all our system automatically pulls the amount of equity they have in the property. At that same time, our system pulls what type of property it is. So we have reports, which we'll be presenting to the board on a quarterly basis, that shows exactly that. 95% of the volume may be single family, but probably 90% of the dollar values is large commercial.
Got it.
But yeah, we have all that. We'll be publishing it. It's all public information. So we have that in our system, yes.
And with that, you said that 15% equity is required. Is that based on just value, assessed value, taxable value, appraised value?
Fair market value. We actually ran into that problem at the beginning of the program because we had interpreted the state law to be just value, and almost no one was qualifying because the just values, the county assessed value is so low compared to what the true fair market value is that people just weren't qualifying. So what it is now is we base that equity part, 15% equity, based on fair market value. But the state law then limits how much you can take out to 20% of the just value. So the equity is based on fair market, but the amount of money you're entitled to is based on the just value. Does that make sense? Okay.
Robert Desoto from the Coalition of Chambers of Miami-Dade. I'm just trying to follow the money. I understand how the whole thing, but where's the initial funds coming from?
Well, we have what's known as a financial warehouse. We have private investors who have given us money, and that's really where the underwriting criteria comes from, is they've set that. So we, on their behalf, check that underwriting criteria. If they qualify, the district has done a bond issuance. They basically sell those bonds to us in a private offering. They did the first issuance was for $230 million. They have a ceiling of 500, which is what I mentioned before. But the first offering was $230 million. We basically buy those down from the district on a project-by-project basis.
And how are they offered? How are the bonds offered? What mechanism are you using?
Well, they're offering them to us. We're buying them from the district. Yeah, no, it's not a public offering. We buy the bond. The district enters into the agreement with the property owner, and basically that agreement assigns us the rights then to collect the interest on the bond.
And I'm sorry, who's we?
YGRENE.
YGRENE.
Mhm.
And that's the 7 cities?
No, see, this is, that's what I was trying to explain, is that's exactly the confusion. It's making it difficult for us to do our marketing too, because people, you got PACE, you got the Green Corridor, you got YGRENE. The district is the 7 cities, and they brought YGRENE in to administrate the program on their behalf. We're just the administrator of the program.
I'm going to steal just a little bit of his thunder here in that what makes this so confusing is it truly is a partnership.
Yeah.
It's a partnership between the municipalities who have come together basically to hire YGRENE to run this program. We oversee it because our obligation is to our citizens, not to YGRENE. We watch them, make sure they do what they're supposed to do. Weiss Sirota, the firm who is the attorneys for Cutler Bay, Chad Friedman, he's the one that really oversaw all of the documents, really developed most of the documents. We sit as a board, we being the mayors of each of the cities or their designee, and we meet, we've met, I don't know, half a dozen times, and when we have these board members, we move among the cities, and our number one role is to protect the citizens. We stand as the insulation between YGRENE, which we watch very carefully. One of the reasons that I had this photovoltaic put on my roof is I want to see I'm in the finance business, that's my world. And I wanted to see what the contract looked like, what the APR was, how were they going to spread it out. I knew all the documents and how they read legally, but I'm not going to drive, I'm not going to sell a car unless I drive it. So I wanted to make sure. And so that's what we do as cities, is make sure we stand between YGRENE and our citizens.
It's a privately held corporation?
Yeah, YGRENE is.
Mhm. Yep.
Thank you.
So, let me run this through. So there's a municipal bond, a tax exempt bond, that is issued by the government entities, the different cities.
Well, by the district, not by each.
By the district,
Mhm.
and it's called the district?
The district is a separate legal entity from the city.
Okay. And so the district issues a municipal bond, your investors purchase that municipal bond, and the purpose for purchasing those bonds is that they have the cash flow from the ad valorem assessment.
Correct, it's a very secure investment, it gives a constant cash flow
So
back
it's
to
an
the investors.
A-rated, AAA, whatever.
We're getting it rated right now, but we're shooting for that,
Okay,
yes.
so
Joe, quick question. Just to clarify, this can be applied to new construction of commercial and industrial properties?
It can be applied, new construction doesn't allow for hurricane protection because that's all code. They have to do it on new construction. And new construction with energy efficiency becomes a bit more complicated than retrofits. It does allow for it, but really it allows for the difference between meeting code and a super high efficiency material. So they have to build to code, and we can't give money to meet those basic requirements. But if they go beyond that and make it extremely efficient, or we have one property owner now that's developing a property that says that they have to hit LEED silver, I think, by the requirements of the city, but he'd like to take it to LEED gold. We can pay for the difference in that, but we can't pay for that initial basic construction.
I have 2 questions. One of them is not-for-profits, because they don't pay property tax, but they have a lot of facilities and they could have a big savings by being a part of this project. How does that assessed? How is that? And then secondly, my second question is, what is the insurance protection when you put solar panels and things on your house? Because, the homeowner's insurance doesn't want to cover things that are attached to your homes anymore. So how is that handled?
Sure.
Before you answer a question, this is Susie Lloyd-Sales, who's one of the council members. Didn't realize you were back there, Cutler Bay. Welcome. Chad Friedman's the attorney, and probably the preeminent attorney in terms of PACE, understanding the contracts. I think he probably wrote most of the works. Stand up just a second. I didn't realize you were back there, Chad. It's Chad, right? Chad Friedman, thank you. I'm sorry.
No problem, thank you. So let me address the first question. It's actually a misconception about non-ad valorem assessments. Non-ad valorem assessments aren't taxes, so nonprofits can have non-ad valorem assessments on their property tax bill. So they'll get a tax bill, all the ad valorem assessments 00000, And down at the bottom in non-ad valorem, it can appear waste collection or sewage district or things like that, and they actually can have non-ad valorem assignment. So nonprofits can participate in the program. Actually, some of the first projects that came through the program were was a temple in Pinecrest, a church in downtown Miami. So a lot of these are jumping on board. The second part of your question was, sorry. Oh, insurance. Yeah, well, this is one of the things what the board does. Is this question, actually Mayor McDougall actually asked me this, of what happens if someone does put solar and they don't insure it. So we put together what's called the rights and responsibility sheet. And basically it's a sheet that each property owner needs to read and sign before we'll even accept an application from them. And it discusses all the issues with this program similar to that. There's only so much that we can control as the administrator of the program. If the property owner is irresponsible and doesn't want to insure their place and doesn't talk to their insurance agent, there's not much we can do except tell them the risks of not doing that. So we don't require proof that they've insured this. We only require that they sign documents as they've read that they need to insure these types of things. That's about as far as we're able to take it.
I think the question that she was asking, and I had a similar question, and I was happy that she asked it, was sometimes insurance companies won't allow you to put something on your roof because then it's null and void if there's a hurricane, or they kind of say, oh, you're disqualified because you've tampered with your roof. Or have you found that that's the issue, or do you have a list of insurance companies that do cover this sort of activity? That is the roadblock I ran into about 8 years ago when I tried to pursue this on my own, was my insurance company wouldn't cover it.
I think the mayor can address that better than I.
In terms of what I do in my business of over 30 years is we cut our teeth in property casualty. So it's not a new subject to us, and I've done some exhaustive research with my staff on this. And I don't know, about 8 years ago, and I don't know who your insurance company was, but I can tell you today what you do is you insure your home to value. That's what we all do. And most people insure generally a little bit over, a little bit under, but they have to be within a certain percentage to value. In the case of a photovoltaic, let's just say photovoltaic because that's the most obvious, that it's subject to wind damage. That is covered under your homeowner's insurance policy. The onus is on you to carry enough coverage to make sure that you can cover the expense of that loss, in whether it's a casualty loss of fire or whether it's a wind event through a hurricane. So there's really no difference between those photovoltaics and your windows. There's really no difference at all. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. Hopefully that'll work.
Okay.
I mean, and I guess I would address that from our standpoint is anything you have to go through now with your insurance company or with the city for permits still exists with this program. This program doesn't change. If you can't get insurance to do solar, the truth of the matter is you can't do it in our program either. We don't change anything. We just get you the money to do it. Everything else, all the laws, all the insurance companies, all the regulations still exist. This program doesn't change any of them.
Thank you both very, very much. I appreciate it. A few things before we wrap up. First, I want to take this opportunity to introduce some of you, I think many of you know, but let me introduce Josh Gelfman, who is the Deputy Director of Miami-Dade's Department of Regulatory and Economic Development. Josh is a Miami local, but is recently returned to Miami to work with us and the mayor's office and the commission and the county to assist in economic development across the board. So we look forward to working with Josh, and certainly he's been very accessible, and I'm sure he would be to you all as well. A couple of housekeeping notes before we go. This is, and I think there was copies out when we walked in, this is the Miami-Dade County Business Profile. This is our publication, and we do this in connection with HCP Aboard Publishing, and Lori Castle, who represents HCP, is here. And Lori, thank you very much for being here. This is everybody who contacts the Beacon Council about relocating here or expanding here gets one of these. It's full of very useful resource information. It's also an advertising opportunity for all of you. So please reach out, let the Beacon Council know, or contact Lori. I think the deadline's at the end of October for this, so thank you very much. One other thing before we go, and that is in front of you, you have the flyer for our annual meeting this year. It's my opportunity to thank the community and thank everyone who's assisted us this year, but also to bring in Sheldon Anderson, who's the next chair. Our keynote speaker is Grace Swoop, who is a dynamic speaker and runs Enterprise Florida together with Governor Rick Scott, and they do a fantastic job for us on economic development. And the chance to meet Larry Williams, our new leader of the Beacon Council, who I am extraordinarily confident will be somebody that you will all come to know and enjoy working with. So with that, thank you all. Have a great day. Appreciate it.